Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Wisdom of the Modern Crone. Today, I have a very special guest, Rachel Schafer, who's going to be joining me. Now, technically, Rachel is not a crone, and she's getting close, I think, to that age. But why I wanted to talk with her is because she carries some very strong medicine that she shares with other women as far as being an intuitive wellness mentor. And that is really wellness we're talking about on all levels, inside and out. And because of the work she does, she really sets women up for the time of transition, the upgrade, if you want to call it, or if we want to go back to the old term of menopause, that's what we're talking about, that time, that transitional time in a woman's life, because it's one of the most important transitions. And how you've lived your life, what you have done, the choices you've made, how firmly you're standing and rooted in the beingness of who you are really determines how you're going to have an experience of aging. And it's so important, the work that Rachel's doing, because she is working with women to get, whether she knows this or not, but this is my perspective, is getting women set up for this time of life. And just to reiterate, I said this a million times, but being a crone is the crowning glory of a woman's life. And for me, when a woman becomes a crone, she becomes fully, let's say, fully in the process of becoming herself, of how she's meant to be, who she's meant to be, how she's meant to express herself in a powerful, grounded way, grounded in the earth and grounded in the stars above. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Rachel. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Elisa. That was beautiful. Yeah, it's good to
Oh,
be here.
Oh, excellent. I love it. And Rachel and I are speaking for the very first time. So we had our little pre-intro for about 10, 15 minutes before we started. So it's exciting. I love this. I feel like this is every time I do an interview is kind of like Christmas morning for me. As a kid, as I wake up, I get a present of opening up a new friend. And so I feel already this beautiful connection with Rachel. And now I just get to discover what that is all about and to introduce her to you. So Rachel, I'd love to start with you, if you don't mind, to start with the work that you do with women, kind of in general, and then specifically, if there's any kind of trends you see nowadays of what women are having to reclaim for themselves, heal for themselves, to really move into a different level of being.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll start with the basics. What I offer is actually pretty simple. It's a lot of in a session. So I offer one-on-one sessions for women. And I let women know that, and men, I've also, but primarily women, um, I let everyone know that the intuitive piece is not me intuiting for them, that this is an intuitive field that is supporting their intuition to blossom, to be received, to come more fully out. Um, I think that's one of the most profound parts. And although that sounds really simple, um, it has been repeatedly over the years, the the just um really illuminating in an unknown way. It's kind of like, wow, people get really shifted in that space and they begin women have this beautiful way of speaking intuitively that is in a spiral. And for so long women have been, shamed or look like you're crazy or I don't understand you in this world. It's very hard to sometimes track. But if you get two intuitive women together and they speak, you're speaking in all these circles and it's beautiful. And one of the things that I notice when I begin to work with women, they'll move into that and they'll repeatedly feel sorry and sorry, I got off track, or I didn't make any sense. Do I sound crazy? That is just so common and prevalent.
Well,
So,
that's just for a second, Major, because
yeah.
that for me is because we live in this masculine dominated world. And as we know as women, that we speak, men are from Mars, women from Venus. That whole book and trend started, well, not a trend, that's been people have known this for a long time, but we speak in different ways. And I love what you just said about speaking in spirals. A lot of times women, I think, is the one that challenges you get caught in a circle, in a loop. But I bet that the creative field that you're creating is one that's going to help elevate that into a spiral. And I also just wanted to highlight for our listeners when Rachel said about, I mean, this to me it's not simple, it's powerful. And for women, because we're in our emotional centers, is simplicity is where the power is. And any real healer that really is a healer is never going to say, I'm going to heal you. They're going to what they can do honestly is just provide that space. So I love that you're just so aware of that and are working with that, because that is the truth of healing,
Mm,
is just providing the space, the container that it can happen, and then letting spirit come in and the magic spirals up. So I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just wanted to share those little, insights with it, because I think it's really important. So let's go back to you and women and that's beautiful space you've created, the apologizing, because this is huge, the apologizing for, you know, I think because of not understanding that this is the nature of femininity, of processing and thinking.
yeah. And thank you actually for bringing the insights, the simplicity. It's the subtle energy field. Like, we're working with the subtle energies. And yes, we've been greatly affected. Women and men have been greatly affected. And I really feel like it's not um like an authentic masculine world that we're living in. We're in a wounded masculine experience, and so men and women are so affected by this. Women when they get more space to be themselves and to not need to be apologetic, when they start to sense that, I don't overtly say you don't need to be sorry, it's like, it's, again, it's just creating more room. It's okay to be sorry. And, we don't, there's nothing to be sorry about, actually. So there's just this type of languaging that I've learned over the years that really works to, um, bring out that language within that woman that's in the space with me, because
No,
it's her language too, right?
yeah.
It's our language and we know it, and it's a remembering. I really feel, and that's a big word. We talk a lot about reclaiming and remembering, but remembering is my favorite word, because um all of what we have is here. In a way, I'm like, there's nothing to reclaim. It's all right here. It's just a remembering, and getting in contact with these parts of ourselves. And there's this great assumption that we aren't whole and complete, that we've lost something, that we are, that there's something wrong with us,
Yeah.
and that there's this, um, even in our spirituality, that we've come to, it's like, well, I need to heal, I need to fix it, I need to, change what's happening. So something I do with women, that is, becoming quite my fate. Well, I got a lot of tools in my toolbox that I like to share, but the somatic piece is so profound. That is the allowing, the somatic inquiry, the somatic guided meditation that I do in community meetings, one-on-one retreats, and in this gathering that I do, a sexual awakening for the heart. Um, they're so profound because they're not about fixing anything. It's not about, um, having a deeper breath. It's not about pushing any of the negativity away. It's not about, all these things that, or letting go or relaxing. And inside that invitation, women that have had insomnia will just completely fall asleep. And in a lot of meditations, the goal is don't fall asleep. That's not doing it. You're not doing it right.
You're
So in
checking
this,
out. You've done something wrong. Yeah.
right. So in this space, one-on-one in the meditations, it's you're the allowing that occurs. And I'm bringing that to each individual's attention and body through invitation. So I'm just inviting someone in, but I'm also saying, please follow your own body, follow your intuition.
You know, the word allowing, that was the word I was going to bring up, and then you brought it up. It's perfect. Because that is the word that really came to me, or say word, but just understanding that really downloaded at the beginning of the year was just this whole about taking my life to the next level is about allowing, and to stop trying and to stop judging. And, we peel these things all away layer by layer. And for me, it's just like the basic principle that, we tend to view what we've been trained to view, that we're here, flawed, lowly, depends how deep you go into the religious, minefield of original sin and all that junk, all those lies we've been told, but that we're here and we're separated. And God is out there, source is out there. The light of who I am is the real me's out there. And my job is to grow my little light inside. And I have to grow it because then I'll connect to it. That like there's a disconnect. When the picture that I was giving is instead of having these different circles disconnected, we're just circles within circles. And I'm already contained within me, within the higher me, which is contained in the bigger and the bigger expressions. And my only job is to allow it in. It's all there. I'm there. I'm here. I'm whole. I'm complete. And then there's the, you want to call it the immortal you, your higher self, whatever you want to call it, your special guide, but the bigger you, it's got you already. You can't get out of that, but you can't leave it. Even when you die, you don't leave it. You're just more aware of it. It's set in the heavens and in the earth. It's what it is. As soon as we realize that we're all there, it's all complete, and we just have to let the completeness come in. So that has been like, I love that you say that, because that's just been a real big revelation in this past maybe 6 months or more, within myself, is moving into that place of more allow, Elisa. Just let it be. You're already you, you're perfect, you're whole enough, you're everything. If there's something that you're experiencing, we're talking about like physical things or dis-ease with something, it's just some kind of blockage in not allowing it in. So what I'm hearing you saying is that your work is just really letting, just have like the ultimate of relaxation of that membrane, whatever that membrane is that keeps us separate, so that we
Yeah.
can just be who we are. Am I getting it?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. You said it very beautifully. And to follow in or add to that, I truly believe, or I've for me, I've gotten this sense that this separation that you're talking about, it's like, actually, we just talked about it in the community meeting on Sunday. It's like, this is the pain that we're all feeling. This is the pain that is being expressed in war. This is the conflict. It's external, it's internal. It is happening. It is based on separation. I mean, that is truly what war is. And it's horrifying. We're in a mess of things. And when we are able to come here and really begin to look at, not with our minds look at the conflict, but begin to kind of massage the pieces, um, where our body is speaking. And in the process of listening to my body, I realized that this, soul came in, and the moment of birth or whenever it happened, there was this separation that occurred. And the pain, um, began, you know, and then the relationship with our parents, which we assume is God or all that is, because that's our world. And then, you know, they aren't perfect. And so there's this mess and pain with that, you know, knowing that. And it goes on, you know, with our traumas and our wounds that occur inside of all that. And I really believe, you know, having this layered traumatic layers of trauma throughout my life, um this not understanding and then coming into that understanding was like, oh, are we, this was all meant to be. We're inside of something that's all meant to be. As horrific as these times are of what we're seeing with the children, that you know, like, oh my gosh, but there is some evolution that is occurring here on the planet. And um I really believe that it's a remembering that we are not separate, and that the path of like so-called losing ourselves, we went out and we went blah into the world and we did our best, and it was never meant to be like this full connectivity. Or I mean, my life, I think that that may be available now, but for so many of us, it just wasn't available. And so there's this return, and that return is deeply coming home to yourself. And the further out we went, or, you know, the journey of coming back to this knowing is just like, wow, wow. And that is not an easy journey. And to be able to truly see, you know, see what's happening here, see what's happening out here. And so this process, bringing it back to the allowing, um, it's not easy. So in this invitation that I invite people into, you know, I never use the word we're going to get relapsed. We're going to let go. We're going to allow, you know, there's suggestions to allow, but usually the first layer is like, okay, let's drop in. Oh, you know, your heart can race, or the, you know, the mind chatter becomes more present. And then you have feelings about that. And then you have feelings about who's, you know, in the community meeting with you, or a one-on-one session. What is she looking at me while we're doing this meditation? You know, all these things come up. So it isn't the first thing we think of, oh, whew, okay, we're allowing, I feel connected. Wow, this is amazing. It is layer upon layer. So what the allowing is like, oh, okay, you're having this like bad day, or you're emotional, or your trauma's up. That's whatever is up, that's where we are. You know, that's what we play with, not work with. We play with it. We just play.
Oh
And
my God, you're doing
often,
like wellness jujitsu, you know, having to do with, but with word jujitsu almost is because people are so fortified with when they, especially for women, we're fortified with this wanting to do the right thing, you know,
yeah,
wanting to please people, wanting to be the good girl. As mad as you don't think you are or not, it is just was something, it's part of the pattern that we come into. It's not just our parents, but I think what you're talking about is that pattern. And I'm just like really awed by you saying this and taking this to a whole other level for my remembering too, is that, you know, if we have, I was just taking I'm hearing you say you're taking the pressure off, like all the pressure off, because we're so sensitive to pressures and expectations as women that we place on ourselves, you know, and the society has placed on us, but ultimately we accept it. And, you know, it's like, okay, I mean, I don't know, do men sit there and go, am I doing the, am I sitting the right thing? Am I doing, are they looking at me? Are they, you know, all those, I don't know if men do that.
some maybe. I'm not
Some
sure.
maybe, but as women,
Not a
all we
lot.
relate like, yeah, right. Did I wear the right thing? Did I say the right thing? What is my, you know, what? So, that's just so beautiful. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your flow there, Rach, but you're saying so many things I think are like really, really profound and important, and you know, part of that de-armoring. You know, because they've got all these buttons, and that's why I say jujitsu. It's like you just kind of working through and just weaving through the buttons where men tend to come in and just like push them button, let's get through it. That doesn't work for me. that's like I know as a woman that kind of process and that kind of upfront doesn't work. So that's not how I move with people or how I mediate a situation being a crone, coming in with wisdom. It's this very subtle little dance of finding, where you can flow in and what's available or not, say words or not, so anyways, that's so beautiful. It's so wise of you. Like everything you're saying is just such beautiful, beautiful wisdom. So kudos to you, sister.
Yeah, thank you. There's so many things that can be said. It's this this pushing, that we around the world, the different cultures, there's some no, but majority of cultures around the world is this push. And so many women are in that wounded masculine pushing to make it happen. And so much of our like I used to call it during the funny times 5 years ago, COVID or whatever. I called it like spiritual patri- patriarchalism. I can't remember yeah, it started to realize how spirituality came in, and it was like, oh, it gave us such a relief. But it also, all of these spiritual lineages, which I honor the core roots, and there's so many of them have so much beauty, and so much guidance and wisdom, and I'm greatly thankful, and I'm completely thankful of the Native Americans that came in, and the elders, the shamans that held me in my 20s, and brought all this support for me. So there's a great honoring of that, and gratitude that I have deeply. And I've started to really realize how caught up a lot of those were in the masculine. Even the beautiful feminine shaman, there was so much wounded masculine that was playing out, and so many shadow aspects, the subconscious just running wild, even in the most wise of elders. And so here we are in this day and age, as this is a beautiful talk. Coming into a crone, yes, I'm perimenopause. The door is opening to this stage, and that's a big part of it, is to recognize um connecting with what is really present now, like energetically, vibrationally, frequency, speaking to those pieces that are of the now, which has never occurred, or maybe it has in other parallel lives. We can go there too. But this unique moment, and we tend to look for support in a way that is like, well, someone else knows better, right? And a lot of these spiritual paths that we've, read all the books and gone to workshops and retreats, and we're just like exhausted with like, oh, and they have fulfilled us. And, for those who have gone in this direction, um, and I feel like, and everybody has their own timing, but I do feel like there's something about being on the planet right now, that there is time to be here and to really accept the parts that we don't know. Like that, 5, 6 years ago, when that big wave came in, it was like, I was like, what? Everyone's saying, I know this. There was all this division. And I realized that I was going to crash and burn energetically, and my health was going to drop if I didn't. Woo, bird just buzzed me. If I didn't um like come into my bubble and fortify it. Like it just, that was a big turning point in my healing experience. And it wasn't about like shutting out the world and being afraid or bypassing and say, that's not happening. It was, I got to choose how much I'm going to take in. And my intuition just, whew, it just skyrocketed. And it's a little bit, it's harder, I feel like, to like see and hear of someone that is just so rooted and grounded and knows all the things and they're at the top of the mountain, the swamis and the wise leaders. And I do listen. I don't shut that out, but I don't leave myself. I don't leave my knowing in order to take in their knowing. I don't put them above me. I don't put someone below me. Like, we are just here, and we're all having an experience. And so um
But that's where judgment comes in, where we start to judge either ourselves or somebody else. Is like, oh, there we elevate them. Or then once you elevate somebody, that means you have to put somebody else down. So if I elevate myself, or I put someone down, it's because I want to elevate myself. Or if I want to elevate someone in this position, it's because I feel bad about me. But in the higher realms, it's not that. We're all equals, no matter where we're vibrating. If we're vibrating it at this level, that whatever dimension you're vibrating at, there is no judgment in that. We're in the now where we are, and it's perfect and wonderful. And I think that that is just really powerful. I've had my experiences with different spiritual communities slash, people could say, cults. There's I was listening to that this morning of yours. It's just how you define that. I don't like to use that word because it's so disparaging, and then I think like, oh, who was I to fall for that? But there is certain, you know, cultish hive mentality that goes in when you start getting a group of people organizing, trying to do something spiritual, because I mean, that's like a whole other conversation someday maybe we'll have, and we'll tape it for others, because that can be deeply traumatic, as far as all the things that can go on outwardly, but inwardly what it brings up. But for me, through all those experiences that I had, for a guru, looking for somebody else to teach me, they did teach me things, but ultimately I had to move beyond that. Ultimately, they did let me down because I had this expectation that they were living their word. And a lot of, unfortunately, whatever reason, a lot of people that put themselves in that position or in that position. I don't know, they've obviously done work to get in that position, but are they still doing the work, and do they embody it? So with my whole channel and presenting things, I'm just coming from a place, let's just be real. I'm not positioning myself as anything. I'm a full woman, a mature, full woman. And that means, I'm like, let's just be real about it. I've got my flaws. I'm okay with them now. I think that's the big difference. And here I'm talking in wonderful little spiraling circles, is like those flaws. um how I accept them nowadays, and the flaws in the world, flaws in myself, is that it's like I'm not looking for perfection anymore. Like when I was younger, I used to look, what is the meaning of it all? What is the truth of our history? What really happened on planet Earth? What is the lineage? What is it was always the thing. Like I can reach this like epiphany, that top of the mountain, and the older I've gotten now is just like, oh my God, that's like way too much work. I think you get old, you get tired. I don't have the energy to like encompass that anymore. And I kind of don't care anymore. It's like, how can I be the best me right now, today? Right now, it's going to be a better me or it's going to be a different me than tonight. I might be tired. And so I'm not going to be as best of me, but I'll be that me, and I'm not going to figure it all out. And I can't figure everything. I can't figure other people. I can't figure out my relationship with my partner. Can I figure it all out and have it be perfect? No. So stop putting this unnecessary expectation, which I think there's a specific flavor to that with women, this perfectionism on things. And, like you were saying, that it's the wisdom I've grown into is about really embracing right now all the stuff that's in this me being me at this point in time, and I still like when you get older, so one of my key messages for younger women, when you get older, it doesn't stop. It's not like you reach this place and now you're oh, I'm old now, and you go downhill. You're just on your way, closer to the grave. It's not like
Mhm.
that. It's maybe say it's more uphill and closer to your transcendence as opposed to the opposite. Um, but you're just, and part of getting closer is just that wisdom that you're already tapping into and embodying. And it's going to be really wonderful to see, where Rachel's another 10, 20 years when you get to be my age, which is probably a good, 15, 20 years out, maybe. I'm not sure how old you are, but
It's 51.
okay, okay. So it's going to be in 13 years out, because you're way ahead of where I was 13 years ago. Um, but it's not a race or anything. It's about we are all doing this together. We're all remembering together. And when you're saying that, I was reminded the word remembering, like we're already members. We're already a member. We're already whole. We're membered. It starts with us and with each other. And we're just remembering, like we're all coming back in together in this beautiful way. So as you do your work, I do my work and authenticity, of allowing, then it's just there's more to remember, right?
Yes.
Don't you think
Yes.
like there's more to remember? And if nobody's understanding like that remembering thing, do you know like when you hear like something that's a wisdom bomb, a truth bomb, somebody says something and you're like, I knew that. It's like, but you didn't remember that, but it's that feeling. That's the remembering feeling. It's like, I knew that. Yeah, that's true. I knew that. You don't know how you knew that or when you knew that or when you heard that or anything. You just have the feeling like, I knew that.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's the remembering because it doesn't have, you maybe never heard it in this life, but you know, anyway, it's just so, it's very, very beautiful. Can I ask you, Rachel, a little bit about, because can you give us a little bit background, a little grounding in who you are and kind of what the journey you've made to get to this place? And I think this is very edifying for other women to hear that it's not like it wasn't all rainbows and unicorns, and life has been, oh gosh, it seems so great to be Rachel because she's so in tuned and all this stuff. And, like you coasted through life. And where I know that that's not what happens. Like when we're in wisdom, typically the stronger our wisdom is, the stronger our medicine is the more we had to overcome to get there.
Mm.
And that's the truth of it. That's the truth of, yeah, maybe you came with all these challenges, but this is your gold. This is your gold to mine within your own soul. So could you talk a little bit, if you don't mind sharing a bit of your
Mm.
journey of how you, of some of your experiences so people have a picture of your journey?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Elisa. Yeah. I mean, speaking about remembering, as I remember, what to share here. Um, yeah, I really feel like, Joel, my husband talks a lot about recapitulation, this Toltec practice, something that we've both done in different ways. Um, and with me over the last year, I've really tied in like soul retrieval, recapitulation, somatic inquiry, trauma resolution, like the GNM style. It's all to me in this one bubble of what we're touching in on. And it's something that we can do when we go back to remember our stories. And like you said, we've walked through fire to come to this wisdom. Like it's because all of these traumas really speak. And so when I have gone back to remember in all these different ways, at first it was like, very emotional, very reactive. And there was a reason for that, and what was happening in my amygdala, a biological reason, spiritual, like none of it was separate. But yeah, when I go back now, so when I go to speak about it, it's like these are the pieces that I've gathered. There was pain, but the the way the shadow I feel works, the subconscious, is like there's no mess. There's no flaw, because it's our bodies speaking. Even our pain, especially the pain in our body, that's our body speaking. And we get ourselves in these wild experiences and we think we've failed or we did something wrong. We were literally just living life and we made a choice. And I really feel like on a soul level, we made a choice to learn something. And some of those things maybe we didn't choose. I don't think that maybe everything is a choice. It's like set before us, like a story that's unfolding that was already written. And there's somewhere that they meet in between, that we have choices inside of this story that we're playing out. So this is the way I view my story is and like you're saying, coming back to yourself, and you're like, I don't have enough energy for that at this time. Yeah, you start to shed, and naturally, I think in this process, and these traumas that have occurred your lifetime, any regret or the feelings about the way you look, or it just all starts to dissipate. The control issues, you start to realize that that is like a direct relationship to like some sort of fear inside of you, an internal process that is something that you attempt to try and fix in the outer environment in order to feel secure here, you know. So anyway, yes, I'll touch in with that. I will touch in. I kind of, yeah, I'll be a little broad, and we can dive into whatever sounds good. But yeah, I was born, or early infant, had, severe eczema covering my whole body. So I was in a lot of pain from the get-go. And yet I was a child that had a lot of passion. I don't know exactly what it was. It was also the role I was playing in my family, I feel like. Compensating, for depression. I was like a lot of joy. So, I had this severe eczema and I would run out into the salty, Pacific Ocean on the Oregon coast and just burn. It would just burn. But I was in so much joy being with this ocean mother and being on the earth in the sand. And I mean, it was freezing cold and no one else was going in the water. So that was kind of my spirit, just to give you an idea that um, I was early connected. Um, and then I went through a process of, um, you know, realizing that there was more to what like. There was joy, but then all of a sudden there was curiosity deeply, as I started to move through my teen. Well, early on, this actually came up. I don't know how many women, but I started working internationally and asking women, and you can tell me, but this like fun party game at sleepovers called Light as a Feather, Stiff as a Board. I don't know if you know it. And I'm sure some people
I
are like, that's the
remember
occult.
that.
Yeah, you do. So it's not just in America, like it, and I don't know where it's come from. And you can ask Chat GPT. I don't do that kind of thing really. I'm just curious to ask people and their experience. But was a big part of like it was like pin the tail on the donkey in the day, at the party, and then we go to bed. And before we get in our sleeping bags, or we'd be like, oh yeah, let's play that game. And it was just wild, where we're trying to levitate the person in the middle, and the person at the head for us would tell the story of their death. And some of us got caught in the story. And it was super scary. I think we didn't want to tell the parents, but we didn't know what to do. And eventually they were okay. I had this experience as well. But there was this thing, and I believe that they went into dreaming, you know, and that when you're a child, these things, everything's so suggestive, and our energy bodies and our dreaming bodies, they're more accessible, but there's not a lot of adults that inspire this. So it's just interesting how, as young girls, we were inspiring each other to enter this type of scene or magic
I
and
was going to say the
oh,
magical realms, like without
magic.
having any guidance or anything, but just knowing, being drawn to magic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that took me into my teens where I was, playing with White Witch and, contacting the other side and different ways. And it was scary. Again, no guidance, just playing around. And it got out of control and it was very real and it was very um telling and uh yeah, there's a whole nother story there, but that really was my entrance into these things. And then it led to, being in groups or cults that were uh deeply spiritual or a Native American uh it was very traditional, but called neo-traditional. Um and before that it was the Carlos Castaneda, our 20-year, I was 18 when I entered, or earlier than that, or yeah, 18 when that the books came in. And so that took over my life. And I was, yeah, I didn't graduate and go to college. I went to the college of
Life.
spiritual, yeah, deeply, wildly unique experiences that I don't regret and I don't blame anyone. I own my experience. I take responsibility for that choice to enter and what I did learn from very power, you could say power abusive, but I really feel again like this is the shadow, the wounded masculine that just as soon as someone finds their power being this type of power that can manipulate energy or can see energy, they're not rooted in their heart, in their body, and they have all this trauma and they bypass it by using power to dominate their heart, which is, to me, love is power. It's the only true power. I That's my experience and what I've learned. um so I got all mixed into that. And I was having really unique experiences with my body. So tying into like becoming the crone, it's like, um, I was going to raves, these huge dance parties that where you would dance until the sun came up. And my body was so reactive to so many things. And I one of the reactions I had in my when I was like 20 was I called it my elephant man stage. My face became slightly disformed. It was so swollen. I just had, my lips swelled up and I had just a raw, open rash all over my face and different parts of my body, but mainly my face. And I mean, I had never had that. I always had eczema on my hands and it was embarrassing. I was bullied. I was made fun of growing up, my whole childhood, but I had never had it this severe on my face. And everyone was going to this dance and I had, done everything I could to try and make it go away and it wasn't working. And because I had was reading these Carlos books, I decided to go and be that woman at the dance and to dance with the rawness of this wound, and knowing that everyone that viewed me would just see me as this. They would never know that I didn't normally look like that. They would just see me as this like, disfigured woman or, so I played with that. And I feel like that really served me. It eventually went away and it came back, and I don't get it at all for many decades. But I really loved that I experienced that. Um, I've also had, more recent experiences where I wasn't able to walk and talk normally. It was like I was 80 years old suddenly. And so I went through that. So I've had these different times in my life where my body um didn't work properly. I wasn't functioning on like a normal human level. And there's a lot of us out there that have had this kind of, I don't really call it chronic illness anymore. I don't like the definitions, you know, um, but sometimes helps to connect with others. Like I was diagnosed with dysautonomia, which is a type of, POTS, it's called, as well as a type of dysautonomia where your autonomic nervous system shuts down or is dysfunctional or is damaged. Um, yeah. So, yeah.
I have a story I tell myself about because I can relate. I've
Mm.
had physical challenges ever, since I was young, little. It's so cute because when I came out of the womb, my mother thought I was like a little lizard because I was just so dried up and cracky. I didn't have the eczema thing. But it's just interesting you said that, is that she was just like, oh, it's my little lizard girl, because I was so dehydrated and bleeding little raw cracks and things. So, and hydration has been a challenge, my whole life is just being able to work with water. But yeah, so I don't think I've ever talked about this on a video, but I developed scoliosis when I was a teenager, and it was very painful. It was focused in my lumbar area, but I worked out really hard. I did all kinds of things my whole life to try to maintain it because I was just aghast that anybody would notice that I had a lump on my back, or, and so I hid it very well. Nobody would know, but even like intimate with a male, that it would, I always wanted to make sure they didn't see that. How can I hide it? And I was just so self-conscious about being deformed. And anyways, but it was painful, doing any kind of physical stuff. Even though I worked out, I had to really had time to recover from it. And just like walking around campus, I did go to university, which, hindsight, I wouldn't have, shouldn't have. But, carrying a backpack or something, it always caused like so much pain. Sitting in the seat caused pain for any period of time. And then when I hit my early 50s, it just collapsed. It just collapsed. So I eventually, I had reconstructive surgery on my back. Um, and because I tried all kinds of other things, and I could never like get it fixed, and I didn't want to like, it got to be too much. So I made that decision with it, but that was, one of the main things. But there's been quite a few things as far as with this physical body, and just being, I feel like it's hypersensitive. So the story I tell myself is just that from vibrating, because we lower our vibration. Everybody lowers their vibration to, become incarnate in this physical world. It's a very low, slow, thick vibration. And
Yes.
so all of us have to lower our vibration. It doesn't matter which plane you come from. We have to lower ourselves to come in here. So my story is just that I have a hard time adjusting to it.
Yeah.
It's just been a hard time adjusting to having this physical body and this vibration in this plane. And there's been challenges. We were laughing, Rachel and I were talking before we started, and I was saying like, God, I always wanted, like, my little prayer to myself as a little girl was, why can't I be like other people? Why can't I just do the things other people do and I'm fine? Because I never could, if in whatever level or whatever frame. And as I got older, it's like, well, why does sugar not work for me? Why can I not have coffee? Why can I, caffeine? Why is alcohol doesn't work? And as I've gotten older, they really don't work. Let me
No.
tell you, they really don't work. It's a crapshoot. Like, if I have like this little drink, try something as clean as possible. And I could have a little bit one night and I'm totally fine. I would have that little bit a few nights later, and I will be out for a day or two of just out my, headache and feeling horrible, like I just poisoned myself. And so it's like I never know. with the, and it's just gotten more, there's less tolerance that my body wants for those things. But that's part of my story with is, all right, I'm not, I haven't been able to change those things. It's just something about a template or whatever of this, you know, incarnating, and I just have to work. I mean, there's blessings clearly, that
Mhm.
I've received, but there's also just been, a lot of physical discomfort about being in a body, just being in a physical body. So I relate to that. And yeah, it's just
Mm.
it's not easy. I don't think it's easy for most people. I should say, I don't even know the percentage, but there's people, a lot of people out there that it's not easy being in a physical body. And then there's some people it is. Say my partner is just like, he's just a camel. He's just a can go for 1,000,000 miles and just never have it, phase him. I kind of always am drawn to men like that, probably because it offsets my wild physical swings. But
Yes.
but I embrace it now. I embrace it. It's just like, wow, that's my magic. Like I'm fluid. I'm moving, and it comes back to what we started about talking about language. And when we get together, we talk in beautiful spirals. Well, I feel like the fluidity of feminine energy is about cohesiveness. It's about love. It's about remembering, drawing people in. It's so different than I hate to say toxic masculinity because that's such an overused word, but you had a word. Would you talk about unbalanced
Wounded masculine.
wounded
Yeah.
masculinity, and I feel like right now we're at a very specific time of remembering what women's power really is,
Mm.
and that's part of me doing the Rebel Crone. It's just I want to elevate my sisters in their voices because there's power and it's so different from the wounded masculine power, even men that have it more together. It's so different on every level, and
Mm.
it's part of, we chose to come into these feminine bodies, for a reason, for this experience. I don't feel like there's any mistake in it, but it's something really specific we need to do as women together, of all ages, and lending a hand, especially to the younger ones of assistance, of assistance to really raise themselves up, and initiation. I mean, I don't know if you ever use that word in your world, but one of my
That-
big calling, like right now, is the first offering that I'm going to provide as the Rebel Crone is going to be a crone initiation,
Mm.
is provide, because we need that. And I want you to expound on that and expand on that in your understanding of the word and what you do with it. But I think and it's not solely, I don't think, in balanced times, when and if there was on this planet, balanced masculine and feminine, we don't have, I don't think, records of that for the most part, but I believe it's a potential we can have. But I feel like that initiation of what the elders provide, and especially women to, younger women, men to younger men, is one of the keys that's been taken away, and an initiation just meaning, for those that may not, so we have our language line up together. So what I'm saying by initiation would be that there's key passages we go through life from one phase to the other, whether you want to look at archetypally, maiden, mother, crone, and then some other ones within that. But there was like a shift that happens, physically and emotionally, and hopefully should have been spiritually, when we go through a different phase in life. And you had elders there to explain that to you and give you a roadmap. So I think it's really like giving a roadmap of experience. And without that, we blindly go through. As women, we go, oh, I'm feeling like I'm going to enter the workforce. I'm going to be a mother. I'm going to be this or that. You don't know how to be in those things, and how you can keep your container sacred and build your personal power. We don't know. It's just all lost. So I want you to like fill in what, initiation is for you and has been in your life, and what you
Mm.
provide there.
Thank you. I love that you said keep your Keep your container sacred. That's such a beautiful statement. Yeah. And yeah, like just recognizing that it is sacred, it's such a not something that we're raised in. So, yeah, this disconnect. Yeah, there's the separation and the disconnect, and then infusing ourselves and guiding as we become in the know, or if we have something to offer. This is so beautiful that you're offering this. Yeah. Initiation. Absolutely. We're infusing that separation with initiation, I believe. And that's where we start to recognize how whole we actually are and how sacred we are, because it directly, initiation, usually involves, no matter what history you're borrowing from or what's coming in, it usually has to do with connecting with nature, with sun, with the earth. And then we just become, when we start to recognize, oh, I'm experiencing this radiance from the sun. Oh, that feels good. You're soaking it up. You're just laying out in the sun, simply that. And you're laying on the earth and you feel all this support and this energy rising. Well, what's happening in between that is you. This is the conductivity. Am I
What's
saying
the
that?
missing link? You're the link or the missing link.
Yes,
It's
yes.
you.
We think we're missing, but we're right here. We've been linking the whole time. Yeah. 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 And um, yeah, for me, the initiation again, I am circling back to this, like what you were saying with this lower vibration. Like we've had to lower ourselves into these places to incarnate, to be here on the planet. And so the thing that I've noticed that has been a trick about spirituality is, and a lot of offerings out there, is that there's the the desire to go up to higher frequencies, to put that on a pedestal, that we need to raise our vibration. um but there typically is some steps missing around the shadow and getting to know oneself and our traumas, which is very much deep and down. And these can be heavier, more subtle energies, but it's also is where the depth of the feminine is, and what I've experienced her to be when we're dropping down and we
Mm.
feel the weight. And so then there's this the deeper down we go, the higher we go. So there's
Oh, that's so
relativity.
true. Oh my God. When you're talking, I'm just picturing how, the wounded masculine has been running things. You think about that religiosity, that viewpoint, the cosmology, it's all God out there, up there, out there. An alien thing, it's an alien because they're not
Yes.
connected to this planet. It's somebody that's literally an alien, that's down and ruling on this. Or there's, the cosmos, it's in space travel, all that, it's just all here out,
Yes.
and it's like, but our feet are on the ground. We're of the earth. We're made of earth elements. And that's like the huge thing that's just missing. Everybody talks about ascending, and I've spoke with Joel about this, your partner, that, for me, it's like, what happened with the descending? And there's like something that clicked for me when I had that personal realization is, Elise, like, worrying about ascending, why don't you really worry, if you have to worry about anything, focus on
Yeah.
descending, is fully
Yeah.
being you with 2 feet on the planet, on the ground, and it's just embracing, like, I will ascend. We will all ascend because we will all pass out of this plane and we will
Yeah.
ascend back to where we came, our home. That's a guarantee ascension.
Yeah. That's given. We came in, we'll go out. It's
Or go
okay.
out. But can you really descend into embracing the fullness of who you are? And that's such this juicy, feminine, earthy, like sensual, just down and dirty and dark. I mean, women, you look at think about the yin and the yang and everything, the moon, the sun, it's all, there is this understanding about darkness, but people think it's like scary darkness or bad darkness, you know, but that's only because if you push it away, you don't want to look at it, you're afraid of it. But it's, yeah, oh,
Yeah, this is the womb, right?
the
Yeah, talking about the
womb.
crone.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah.
I
My
feel,
my
yeah. Go
it is,
ahead.
it's the womb. It's womb.
Mm.
It's fully descending. And it feels like when we first start talking about we're speaking about the circle that you create, this kind of initiation, this place of facilitating, of just being present and opening up a container where women can come in and be absolutely present. And, like it's fully descending in right now and connected. So I feel like that is like you're creating a womb with it without, it's some of these words are just so overused, like it's a womb space. Oh, but that
Right.
really, you know,
I
it's
know.
like
Glad you're speaking to that. Yes.
so it's just a little, but it's just when people use it as
Mm,
I would say just use it just as words, and concept is very different than when you use it as experience, so
right. I
it sounds
feel
like
you.
you're very careful of languaging, and it's because it's something so true. We cast our own spells upon us by the words we use.
Yes. It's like spiritual propaganda. It's like, how can we not say that? But it's also a shared language, right? But you're speaking to it so beautifully. When we're dropped in and we know it because we've experienced it, that's really different than, word candy, where we're just popping it out to say the right
Word
thing or to look
candy.
good.
That's a good, oh my God, concept candy, word candy. And
Mm.
it's more of a challenge for the men nowadays, I feel like, because there's this tendency to be very isolated in the mind realms,
Yeah.
which are
Yeah.
powerful realms, but they can be very, once again, I might use the word toxic, they can be very limiting if they're not connected to the heart. And yeah,
Yeah.
that's part of
Yeah.
thing. But you were mentioning too, like I want to just touch in a little bit. I mean, we've been going for a little while now, but I don't like to make these too long, but there's just so much to talk about.
Mm.
And maybe we can hopefully you'll come back and we can talk more depth about certain things. But I think
Yeah.
one of those topics would be like the shadow, the beautiful, incredible, powerful shadow. That no matter what kind of work that you're doing, when you're going in to heal and become whole, you're going to have to come up against the shadow you. And as you work in different ranges, I'm kind of talking to the audience out there, working in different ranges of recapitulating, remembering, bringing back to wholeness, that shadow can be really stinking powerful. It can be really intimidating stuff. It's a power, a force. And I'm not saying that I've you know, uh, what you say, trying to say the right words here. Um, what is it when you work with shadows, like enlightened my shadows or embraced all my shadows or understood or even seen all of mine, because
Yeah.
they're still there, but I've chunked at some of them, and I've had to see, like they come up when they come up, right, Rachel?
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
have to go searching for them. That right in your healing process, when the time's right, they're there,
Yeah.
which bespokes to the wisdom of that you don't need to point things out to other people just arbitrarily. I'm sure you know
Mhm.
that in your thing, because if you don't hit the right time with it, you point something out when somebody's not ready to see it, then you put a stumbling block for them potentially being able to see it sooner than later. Anyways, I'm weaving my circle of nonlinear thought right now, and
Beautiful. Love it.
I just came around to a whole bunch of different things and added some new ones right in there.
Perfect. Would you like me to take it from
Yeah,
there?
you take the microphone and you just spiral that baby back around a few times.
Cool. Yeah. Oh, it was beautiful. Yes, I would say when you start to really move into shadow exploration, um, there you realize the shadow is at play all the time with you and everyone. It is present. We're talking about as far out as like way over there on the other side of the world in this war, right? And then how that stirs up the shadow parts in us and how we want to control the war, take a side and fight, and how much of us comes out of our bodies and abandons um, our wounds, our deep conflict that we have within ourselves around things. And this conflict um, isn't to be, um, shoved or pushed into the light or like or repressed. That's typically what we do. I did it this week. The shadow of my 20-year-old kickboxing self came out through a jaw dislocation, and I was like, "Oh, I need to fix it. I can't. This can't be here." This is a shadow of pain. And then so I lose it. you know it's like I don't remember. I'm deeply in the shadow work. I guide others, but this is how it comes up, this subconscious play of like what I normally do when pain comes in. It's like it overwhelms me. My nervous system goes into overload, and then I play out those patterns. But with this, it took me like hours instead of like days or months, right? Because
Or
I've
years.
this or years, yeah, a lifetime. Um, so so then it was like, oh, okay, the body's speaking. Here it is. And we've talked about this, the allowing. So the shadow to me, and a lot of people know this, IFS, internal family systems. There's a lot of different type of psychology that addresses this type of work. Carl Jung, all these psychologists. And so we've gotten to borrow from them. And one of those things I've noticed that is also true for me is that these are deeply wounded parts of ourselves, the shadow that comes through in anger or fear or all, confusion, control issues, all these things. These are all um, the big kind of obvious pieces that when they're in your day, or anxiety, even agitation, it can come in more subtly. It's like the body's speaking. There is information there. But what we normally do, because we are taught to do this from the earliest of ages, is to not feel that, or if you're gonna feel it, don't show it. Or, okay, you're experiencing that and you're feeling that. Okay, okay, okay. And sum it up and we're done. Pull up your big pants and move on and let go. And then we're taught in like talk therapy, like ruminate it until it heals. We're gonna process it and work it out. That's, we don't need to do that either.
Put it on the altar and walk away.
Yes. Love it. Love it. Bring your attention to it. It is so much about bringing your attention to it. And that's where the allowing comes in. The allowing naturally comes in when you're like, okay, I'm going to let you be here. And so you start to allow all the parts of yourself, and we have lots of parts of ourselves, and that is perfect. When we recognize that, then we're in, it's like we're taught that that's crazy. No, when we allow all of our parts of ourselves to sit at the table with us, and we listen and we accept them as knowledge. And it can be our little girl having the biggest fit, and it sounds horrible in our minds. And you're like, okay, I'm going to witness that. And I hear you. And I really appreciate you coming forward here and letting me know. You
And
may not need
tell me all about it.
tell me all
Just
about
tell
it.
me all about it. I love you. Just, yeah. Oh, I love, give me chills. Yeah.
Yeah. And that is a tender process. So this whole idea of being spiritual and a higher vibration because it feels good, it's like, but there's these other parts that really want to be felt. And
No,
when we,
that's because we're like a war. It's like the warrior mentality. Like we're taking like this masculine, the wounded masculine, because it's the wounded masculine warrior is the only warrior that, quite frankly, we see on this planet. And people think, oh, I'm a male warrior. I'm not even sure we even know what really that picture is.
Mm,
To be able to really envision it, like what is the real male warrior? What is the true feminine goddess? These are archetypal things, but they're pure essences. And we're so far divorced from that. So I think we pull on it. When you're talking, I'm just hearing, oh, it's like the warrior, put on your big girl pants, gird up your loins and fight another day, live to fight another day. Well, that's a story. That's a paradigm. That's an energy pattern that we've
yeah,
been imprinted with. But it's not the way, it's a way.
yeah,
It's a vibrational way. It vibrates at a certain level. Do you want to accept all the things that vibrate at that level? Because it's within that paradigm. I look at them as like little bubbles, like your little thought bubbles is like
yeah,
that's a paradigm bubble. But if you accept that, then you accept all the other things within that bubble. And there's things that you may not want that go apart, but you may not even be aware of it, but then you're in it because you're vibrating there. This is kind of just sharing with you my how I envision things. I see things in diagrams almost,
yeah, yeah,
but we can break free of that. And it's just the more at my age now, it's just like, it's just bubbles within bubbles and paradigms within paradigms. And it's going to be that way through eternity. How incredible is just higher level beings. They're still moving up to a higher level. They're filling out that level and then they bump up against the edge of it and they're like, ooh, initiation, new level, and
right.
we're doing the same little thing down here. But I think that's, that whole gird up your loins. It's still like a war mentality.
Yeah.
um, so could you give the listeners like some practical steps right now? Because what you outlined is such a beautiful thing, and people may not know, like, what do I do right now with it? And we'll use the
Mhm.
example with we're on the cusp of potentially, World War III. Which let me just say, in my own heart, I like, all right, maybe that old system, maybe that's how it has to come down. It has to self-destruct itself. There's going to be carnage involved with it, but maybe that's the only way. You can't change that. It's going to have to play out its sickness in massive destruction for something new to be born. I don't know. I definitely would love the story of a gentle transition of things, because I'm a woman. I see how things gently transition into something new and beautiful. So what can people, when they're feeling that right now, that nervousness, the scariness, and the anger, which underneath it is usually just fear.
Mhm.
What could you give just some like real practical steps that you would share with your clients that, you know, what we could do right now in this situation we find ourselves in?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great question. Yeah. And I really believe we are in a great transition, but initiation. Yeah. And we're all in it together in different ways, weaving. Um, yeah. I mean, specifically, I would say that if you're feeling energetically drained, that if you're feeling in fear, um, that this has so much to do with energy management, specifically around the shadow work piece and shadow play, which I like to say. Um, the one of the biggest healing shifts in my life was when I learned to drop back and down. You were talking earlier, the wounded masculine is up and out. This is dropping back and down. And you can actually physically do that. Um, I think that one of the hardest parts is like we're um, so intermixed with the energies outside of us. And when we can get a strong sense of our own bubble, that's when I say go play with what's going on out in the world. And this is a pretty bold thing to say because this is not, I don't believe in shutting it out or not having compassion or relating to the world. But until you have a really good sense of your groundedness and your shadows and how they're at play, not that they're not at play, they'll probably always be at play. So it's not about fixing anything, it's about an awareness and this present moment and this body of yours and this sacred temple and your connectivity. If you are in a great practice with that, in and out, we go in and out of it, then observe what's going on in the outer world. But until then, this is the only thing you need to observe, because I truly believe that that will that of which is outside of you will continue to hook you in all these different directions. And yes, it will tug at our hearts. Our first thing is, what do we need to do? How can, some are more bent towards how can we help? How can we change this? Oh my gosh, there's so much suffering, or
How can I
survival, like,
protest? How can I protest it?
yeah, the
Yeah.
activist, the fight. How can I'm angry? I need to go fight up against this. Um, the other one is, fear of, like, my own existence. This means we could all die. The whole world's going to die, or I'm going to die. What do I need to prepare? What kind of, preparation, food and all this stuff. This is why I only call it intuitive wellness, because when we are connected and just aware that we are connected, um, that that is our guidance system that will show us, and maybe that guidance shows us to be on the front lines. But when you have any type of chronic illness, fatigue, overwhelm, which I think most of us do, it's because of our energy management and the onslaught of our disconnect. And if we're disconnected and don't have a sense of being connected, we will we're throwing ourselves to the game. This is an earthly game that is being played, and I suggest taking yourself out of being a player in the game, because it will suck away every bit of life force energy you have. And some maybe not. Some can, like you were talking, different types of constitutions can proceed and do fight the good fight and all of that. But when we are in a polarized system and we choose a side, we throw everything off balance. It's not
Yes.
about siding with what we don't believe or not acknowledging that this is not okay. But when we move into our witness of it, we can understand more of what existence is attempting to tell us. And that is the most deepest, profound wisdom that we can receive. It's not from learning about this side or what is this going to happen. We just empty out this life force energy, and we're just getting to know it. So to me, that is the most important. I don't even want to say important. It's most, um,
It may be
I
helpful.
believe it can heal the world.
Yeah.
I believe it can heal the world. So it may seem selfish. It may seem like I'm bypassing, disconnecting, but the more I've gotten to know it, we are energy. And when we come out of the war and the things, and we drop out of the mind and we get into the body. And this life, we are in a body experience. And that's what I'm getting to know myself more and more. And when I get to know that, the frequency and my energy shifts, not just for myself, but it affects my family, and it keeps moving out. It affects my clients. And if I can do the thing that I feel is the best for the world, that is my deepest activism, is my silence, my presence of the now moment, and my resting into the depth of the feminine to be deeply receptive and loving and experiencing ecstasy and joy and love as much as I can.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. There's just like that you just like opened up a universe, and also oops, opened up a universe of of potentials, a universe of all kinds of beautiful, juicy magic with that. And also, it's like opening this up, but also bringing it right into something so practical and just so powerful. And so, what I hear you saying, Rachel, is really, it's like this the war thing is going on, it's like in this plane, it's happening. And you're saying about going into that witnessing, which is like this point and this point, though, right? Because you can't the shadow and the light, but there's a witness point for it all, and that really is our responsibility. And even as a crone, I can't, while I've gotten into stronger witnessing points, clearer witnessing points, it's a daily dance for me as far as, being reactive to the energies around me. Lately it's been like, oh my God, I've been like so tired, more on edge, more, just all these things. And sometimes I spin with it. But as you were saying earlier, it's how quickly we come back. And I can come back quickly to a place of balance as opposed to having it be, months and weeks and months and years of spinning out on stuff. And, so be gracious with yourself. This is like the gracious way. This is the path of pure grace. And I feel it's like the feminine path,
Yes.
because it is graciousness in every sense of that word. And that's what I really feel from your spirit, my sister, is this beautiful, wise graciousness. And I just want to acknowledge the beautiful work you're doing for our other sisters and how powerful that is, and paving a new path. This is you're paving a brand new path into beingness, and it's just into the beautiful velvety dark womb of beingness, and to find that place, and then we can then let's see what emerges from there. But it's only, it's like the earth, you plant your seed in the earth, and then the tree or the flower, whatever that beautiful thing blooms from it. But you have to have the seed in the earth first. And I think that's probably an analogy that for me that really paints the picture of what you were saying, is that most important at all is learn how to provide that beautiful, fertile, warm, moist, rich ground, so that you can be, and then you'll know, then you know what to do. Then, oh, I'm like this kind of, I'm at this a tree. I need to bloom and go over here and branches off there, and or not, or maybe you're just this beautiful single stalk and one powerful little bud that comes off from it. I mean, I don't know. We're all designed to do different things. There's all kinds of magical plants in the kingdom.
Yes.
Oh, so thank you, my dear, so much for just sharing you with everybody, sharing you with me. I mean, I'm doing this because I get so much out of it, and then I generously share it with everybody else.
So incredible. Thank you,
Oh,
Alyssa. It really was. Good talk.
good. And I hope, and please come back again and we can talk more about things. So
I
anyways,
would
I'm gonna
love that.
good, good, good,
Yeah.
good. So everybody, I'm just gonna do my sign off. Rachel, this, I don't know if you know this, but I typically, excuse my little figure. That's a whole other thing. We won't even go in now, but I've had all this hand stuff happening lately. But I was go, it's like peace from within, and
Oh,
blessings to you all, because peace from within is where it starts and where it ends. It's the game.
mm.
It's the game of life. So love you all. Until next time.
Oh, thank you.